individually agree the target with the patient. That's your get out of jail free. There's various treatment strategies, but what we would suggest that you continue with each level of treatment as long as it's tolerated. You achieve your HbA1c target within that 3 months of treatment. If it doesn't work, stop it and try something else. You see these patients who end up on 10 different types of treatment just because you're frightened if you stop it, things might get worse. It might just be that they're not doing anything at all. You want to aim to reduce their cardiovascular risk, and you want to remember about concordance compliance with both their tablet treatment or injectable treatment and their lifestyle, because it's lifestyle that has the most impact. Remember intercurrent illness. This requires a great deal of patient education because there's a lot of myths out there about what you do when you're sick. There's been a great push in Lanarkshire to rationalise self-monitoring of diabetes, pricking your finger at home and using a blood glucose monitoring meter. And in general, people who have diabetes don't need to monitor regularly unless they're at risk of hypoglycemia, so unless they're on insulin or a sulfonylurea. But in intercurrent illness, you want them to know what their blood glucose is. So if they are somebody who has a lot of comorbidity, who are at risk of developing acute illness, then you maybe want to think about them having the ability, or their carer or significant other to have the ability to monitor their diabetes, and what to do about the numbers they see when they test. You want to be treating the underlying illness adequately and support the diabetes. So you want to maintain fluid intake. And it's quite a lot to take in if you're feeling really rubbish over the course of 24 hours, 3 litres. You want to maintain carbohydrate intake, and this is the one time they can have whatever they want. Fat Coke, fruit juice, whatever. Soup, snacky foods, Mars bars, it doesn't matter. Whatever they can get into. Give them antiemetics to stop them being sick if you're confident they don't have DKA, because diabetic ketoacidosis makes you sick. So if you're confident that's not going on, you certainly give them something to stop them being sick so that they can keep all the fluids and tablets down. You keep taking the tablets and you only stop metformin if they happen to become dehydrated. And insulin should never be stopped. And people think if they're not eating, patients think if they're not eating or drinking they shouldn't be taking their insulin, and that's not the case. Because hyperglycemia can result from intercurrent illness independent of their calorie intake. And there's no hard and fast rules about this. It depends on the individual, that one person's metabolism, the type of insulin they're on, and when and why they take it. And we've got lots of local guidance and sick day rules advice out there, and I would hope it's similar in every area, but please, if you're at all unsure, your diabetes specialist team are the experts in this. And this goes back to the self-monitoring. We want you to monitor your glucose and your ketones more frequently, and you want your glucose to be round about or less than 13 if you're sick. And you keep doing what you're doing until normal diet is taken and there's no more ketones in your urine or blood, because you can measure ketones in blood these days. Not so much at home, but it is possible. But remember, IV insulin inflows may become necessary even in somebody with type 2 diabetes, as an interim measure if they're unable to tolerate their oral treatment and they go off. It's quite hard, isn't it? Quite complicated. So what makes it easier? Well, there's lots of places to go for further information, loads and loads and loads and loads. I think somebody should come up with that. Thank you very much. Questions? Stunned into silence, that's good.
Excuse me.
Sorry.
If you have dehydrated, you stop metformin. If you have to stop the metformin, if the patient's dehydrated, do you give them something else or just monitor?
You can either give them something else like glycoside, or you can continue to monitor. What I would tend to do is continue to monitor before I was quick in adding in any treatment. I potentially wouldn't add in an alternative treatment to metformin for an illness, for an acute illness which is relatively short-lived. You're not going to come into any long-term harm from maybe stopping it for 2 or 3 days and then reintroducing it when things get better. But certainly if the illness is more prolonged, it's worth taking metformin out of the equation and using something else.
I have a couple of questions. Can you hear me okay?
Yeah.
First question is, clearly this seems to be a major public health crisis in lots of countries, the growth in
Yeah.
instances of both types of diabetes. And I just wonder whether, governments need to be doing more to actually explain to the public the risk they're running with lifestyle than they are today.
Yeah.
Whether you have any thoughts about what might work there. And the second thing is to do with monitoring of glucose. Is there any progress towards continuous monitoring? And, I know there are insulin pumps around that basically can administer the dose. Is that a good technology, or do we need to do more there?
Okay, so the first question would be the public health concerns over the rise in incidence of diabetes. And there is work being done already in terms of screening for diabetes in the healthy population, and keep well programmes in primary care to identify risk, and working in collaboration in terms of obesity strategies and lifestyle intervention, education at schools. So yes, it's part of a wider issue. It's not just something that healthcare are going to be left with. The government are very, very aware that this is going to be a huge, already is, but will be a huge problem in the future. So yes, there is a coordinated approach to this, really, from a public health point of view. In terms of continuous blood glucose monitoring, yes, it is available. It only tends to be utilised at the moment in patients who are on insulin pump therapy. The provision of insulin pump therapy in Scotland is very variable. And again, it's a political hot potato, in that the provision of insulin pump treatment, continuous infusion, is looking to go up by at least 100% within the type 1 population over the course of the next 3 years. Is insulin pump good technology? Yes, it is. It's very rare to start somebody on an insulin pump and then try and get them off it. It's very labour intensive at the beginning. It requires a huge package of support and education, and it is quite technical treatment and still requires a lot of monitoring, pricking your finger about 6 times a day, where the continuous monitoring would be useful. But yes, it works very well in motivated individuals, but it is not the answer for everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.